Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Plan Giving Committee meeting. We have a very full agenda. Glad to see all of you here, and we're looking forward to learning more about Plan Giving, and I am going to learn some stuff with you. Our board presentation is designed to raise your own awareness of gift options for you that you may not have thought of, and for you to help us spread the word about leaving a legacy to ATS, especially in light of the upcoming centennial. This fiscal year has been a very strong one for Plan Giving, with a number of large bequest expectancies and realized bequests that Judy will elaborate on shortly. I also want to say that we look forward to some new engagement efforts for the Planning Committee that are coming up this spring. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the star of our show, Judy, to share the details of where we are with Plan Giving so far this year. Hey, Judy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to make sure that everyone takes one of these handouts. Mark Gaines had said to us in our Plan Giving subcommittee a few months ago that board members need these handouts when they go out and meet with potential prospects, so they can have a handy-dandy piece that helps them to talk to people about what the possibilities are for including ATS in one's estate plans or life income plans. So this is literally hot off the press. And if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Please feel free to take more than one if you need to, and we can print some more. So thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to see all of you in person. Before we get into Plan Giving updates, I want to first tell you that I am thrilled and overjoyed to share with you that we have a brand new Assistant Director of Plan Giving Marketing. And she's already done a tremendous amount, including this piece, and she's working on several other pieces as well. And she will be reaching out to our Plan Giving Committee to work with you on a focus group. This will be an opportunity to provide your input and ideas and feedback as we prepare to elevate our Plan Giving marketing and stewardship ideas. In particular, we're looking to build out the Genesis Circle, which is our legacy society, in terms of how we recognize and celebrate members, as well as how we brand and market the society. I'll be undertaking these efforts along with Nicolette Highland-King, who is delighted to be here, and I am over the moon to have her. We're going to aim to have our focus group late April, May, before all of you go off on vacation. So stay tuned for more. Okay, I'm going to briefly go over the Plan Giving update before I go into the training session. I was told I had 20 minutes to train all of you in Plan Giving. So I just want to put this in perspective. We Plan Giving officers, when we train in Plan Giving, it takes us days. So no small feat. I've got 20 minutes to teach you what takes us days, but I'll do my best, I promise. As John had mentioned, we had a very strong year so far, and it's only been 6 months in Plan Giving. Our trusts and annuities are at $620,000. And our bequest expectancies are at 42.360. This is as a result, we've had a $20 million bequest expectancy and a $22 million bequest expectancy, and they have both come in this fiscal year. So it's been a very strong year so far. This is bequest realized. This is cash in the door. So we're talking about cash contributions, pledge payments, and direct to Technion bequests of bequests realized. $8 million and 21% of total ATS cash so far. I want to point out that we had a gentleman in Florida who had been a long-time annual donor of about $1,000, and he had told Neela Lazarus, one of our New York fundraisers, that we were in his will, but he refused to share any documentation. We didn't think that this person had a large estate. We didn't really know him that well, but every year he got a call from our fundraiser thanking him for his annual $1,000 contribution. He passed away, and the broker contacted us and said that we were getting a bequest, and we didn't know how much. And the initial bequest came in at about $377,000, and then we got a follow-up bequest of over $6 million. And there are 2 additional accounts that are still coming. And this was somebody that, you know, as my boss, David Kivo, always says, the millionaire next door. We have these people all over the country. Unfortunately, I will tell you that because I oversee bequests, in most cases, we don't even know why they've included us in their will or who they are, and I just get notified by the attorney, which is very unfortunate because we don't get to say thank you. But this happens time and time again, that somebody has left us in their will, and when I call the attorney and I say, what was their connection to Technion, the answer is, I don't know. So it's always wonderful when we know and we can thank people in advance. So this is looking at plan giving overall compared to where we are in the ATS campaign. As we had mentioned earlier, we are already at $64.8 million. And the total plan giving, now this is counting life income gifts, bequests, expectancies, and realized, is about $50 million. So it's about 78% total percentage in plan giving relative to where we are in the campaign. And bear in mind, we still have until September 30th. Yes, question?
What's the difference between, well, could you define the categories? So
Annuities and trusts are life income gifts. So those are, and I'll go into that in a couple of minutes, those are irrevocable gifts that people say, I'm going to give you $100,000 and set up an annuity, and that money stays at ATS and we invest it and pay income back to the donor. So that's one category. Bequest expectancies, I'm going to leave $1 million to ATS when I die, but I'm still living. Bequest realized, I am no longer standing. I am 6 feet under the ground, and the money has come in. Bequest realized. Deborah likes those the best. Although I have to say, when they do come in, Michael is very happy to hear about them. But those are Deborah's favorites. And total plan giving is all of those combined.
So is that saying that so far, 2004 fiscal year 2023, people have signed up upon their debt to request $42 million?
Yes. Yes. So, not to digress, but I'll share, I've been working for several years with a retired ophthalmologist in Los Angeles, and he left us not only the remainder of his estate, but his pension plan from his medical practice. And we couldn't figure out how to get that pension plan into a bequest, and we finally did, and that is a large part of that bequest. Okay, let's get started. So what do I hope to achieve today? Only a minor miracle. The goal of this session is twofold. First, I'm hoping that this is for you as individuals, so that all of you who are our greatest advocates and our biggest champions can make sure that you have included us in your estate plans, that we are part of your legacy. But it is also for you to think about who's in your network. Who are your friends, your family, your neighbors, who might be interested in considering ATS in their estate plans, or considering ATS for a life income plan, an annuity, a trust. That's the goal of what we want to achieve. We will share information with you that we hope will be helpful for both you and for the people that you know, because each one of you has a network that we don't know. And you may not even be aware of, but the more you spread the word, the better it is for all of us at ATS and Technion. And then I'll briefly describe some vehicles that we can go over. So why is plan giving on the rise? COVID in general was not the best thing for fundraising. However, it was very good for estate planning. And that sounds pretty morbid, I know, I'm sorry to say. But more people went back to their attorneys and set up their estate plans just to make sure that everything was done right in the last 3 years. So for charitable purposes, COVID was actually very good because people have gone back to their estate plans and have included ATS in their estate plans where they might not have done that otherwise. Wealth transfer. The largest segment of the baby boomers are now in their mid-70s. That generation is having a huge wealth transfer of both business interests and real estate interests. A lot of those interests are going to family, but a lot of those interests are going to charity. Retirement plans. We'll talk about IRAs in a few minutes. There are trillions of dollars in IRAs. People need to leave their IRAs to someone when they pass away, and ATS is as good a charity as any, right? And the aging of America, which, you know, nobody in this room is aging, but the rest of the aging in America. So, I promised Nancy that we're not turning you into solicitors. Nobody here has to become a plan giving officer, and nobody here has to become a fundraiser. But I'm going to teach you a few skills, listening skills, that might help you when you're out talking to your friends and family. Plan giving donors, for the most part, are not wealthy donors. Why? Because if somebody leaves you in their estate plan, it doesn't take away from their money today. It is at the end of their life. And so there are people who make plan gifts of $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, and $1 million or more. And it really is for everyone. It's about passion. The best selling point is you can make a transformational gift today that costs you nothing during your lifetime. So traditionally in plan giving, one is taught that the best plan giving donors are those people who've given you annual gifts every single year. And that's often true. However, at ATS, we have a very special cohort of plan giving donors. People who come out of the woodwork, who have never given a dime, who have never said, I'm interested in Technion, and somehow they find my name, my email, my phone number, and they raise their hand and self-identify. And they come from all over the country. Utah, Florida, Minnesota, places you would never imagine. I've had 2 come from Arizona in the last week, and not places that we have a presence. This gentleman was one of those people who self-identified and emailed and then called and gave $100 in October of about 4 years ago. 30 days later, he called and said he wanted to set up an annuity for $100,000. and then proceeded to set up regular annual annuities, and then a few years later called and said that he wants to leave his entire estate to ATS. And this was not somebody that, as we say, it was the millionaire next door that nobody knows about. And he's become a very loyal donor and a very good friend of ATS. So traditionally, it is the donor who has been giving loyal annual gifts, the person who's generally 55 and older, who has children who are established and don't need quite the resources from their parents. It is the donor who might be estranged from their children or has no children, or the donor who's single or widowed and has tremendous loyalty to ATS. And I will point out one other factor that when I talk to people and I say, what is it that makes you want to leave ATS in your estate plans? And in each and every single case, it's my love for Israel. That is uniform across the board, no matter who they are and what they're doing. Their love for Israel is absolutely passionate. So what do their bequests consist of? Cash, stocks, IRAs, pension plans, retirement plans, the residue of their estate, what is left over. It's a whole combination of things that they can leave. So how do we ask, and we're going to go into this in a minute when we have a panel discussion, but how do we ask someone that we're talking to about Technion to leave ATS in their legacy? I would say the best way is to talk about your own legacy, why you created a legacy to ATS, and what it means for you to have a legacy at Technion. What impact is that? Why is it important to you? Asking about their children and their grandchildren, their values and their interests. What's important to them, what they want to accomplish in life, and the impact that they want to make. Now, I won't deny that probably a huge majority of us have had a downturn in our stock portfolios. I can tell you that my conversations with donors, it is everywhere from my portfolio is down from 20% to 30%. Absolutely true. Yes, everybody's portfolio. But we've been here before, right? 2000, 2008, we've been here many, many times. Okay. However, remember, we're talking about legacy. Okay, so those portfolios have plenty of time to regain because hopefully we're all going to live till 120. And 90% of all planned gifts come from either beneficiary designations or bequests. So when I say beneficiary designations, I'm talking about checking accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, retirement plans, bank accounts. There are lots of accounts that do not require an attorney and only require a beneficiary form that one fills out and then it's taken care of. So bequests. This is the lion's share of what we get in planned gifts, and they are revocable. They can be changed every day for as long as you're living. And they can also be unrestricted, which of course is the best use for these bequests, or they can be designated. The worst thing one can do is not tell us it's designated for something that we can't fulfill, and then I'm left with a situation where, I have to go back to the lawyer and figure out what can we do. And right now I'm working with the Philadelphia Attorney General's office on a $500,000 bequest in just such a situation. A donor that we never knew left us a bequest and we can't fulfill what we what the donor has left, and we now have to go back to the Attorney General and try to redo it. So it's much, much better if people can tell us in advance. Wills can be changed. They can be amended with a codicil. It doesn't require someone to have to change their entire will. Trusts can be amended as well. And it's not that complicated, and it's done on a fairly frequent basis. ATS can be left a percentage, a dollar amount, or the remainder of one's estate. Obviously, if it's the residue of one's estate, it's the largest portion, but it can be any one of those things. Blended gifts. I would say this is much more popular than it used to be, because one can give an immediate gift, and then the other portion of the gift could come from a life income gift, a bequest, an IRA, a donor-advised fund, and it provides donors the opportunity to give a much larger gift. Okay, now I'm going to talk about life income gifts. I'm going to focus on gift annuities and deferred annuities. That's the first two categories. I'm not going to go into trusts. It's a little more complicated, but I will say if someone's interested in trusts, I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations with anyone. Or if you're working with someone and they're interested in a charitable trust, I'm happy to talk to you about how they can set that up. These we manage at ATS through Alliance Bernstein, and each of these vehicles can be funded with cash or appreciated securities, and trusts can also be funded with real estate. I also want to say it's very interesting that at ATS we have several donors who are multi-generational donors for these life income gifts, which is highly unusual, but it just goes to show you the loyalty of our donors. Charitable gift annuities, the most popular life income gift because it provides high, guaranteed, fixed income that gives partly tax-free income. I'll show you an example. A tax deduction, and in the last 6 months, the rates have been increased twice. This is unprecedented in decades. I've been doing this for 32 years, and I can tell you, never have I seen 6 months of rates being increased twice. This is because the interest rates went up, so that's why. The older you are, the higher the rates. So I'm going to give you an example. This doesn't have to be one donor, it can be two donors, but I just used an illustration with one donor who's 72 years old, who contributes $100,000, and they would get a fixed payout rate of 6.2%. 6.2 because they're 72. Whether they give 100,000, a million, or 10 million, it's still 6.2 because they're 72, okay? They would get a tax deduction of $42,763. They can take that tax deduction over 6 years, the year they make the gift, and they can carry it forward 5 more years after that. Of that $6,200, almost $4,000 is tax-free annually. So that's over half the income is tax-free on an annual basis. The rest is taxed as ordinary income. It's a wonderful life income vehicle, and this is why this is most popular. We do these annuities starting at age 70. So the older the donor, the higher the payout rate. Deferred annuities. We do deferred annuities starting at about age 60. This is for people who don't need more income now but want to defer the income down the road. And they can defer 3 years, 5 years, as whatever works for someone. This is usually used as supplemental income for retirement. Again, once it's started, guaranteed fixed income, partially tax-free income, and a tax deduction. So let's take that same 72-year-old and let's defer their annuity for 5 years. So if they did an immediate annuity, they would get 6.2%. If we defer it 5 years, they get 8.6% fixed. You can see over half the deduction, the tax deduction, is a charitable income tax deduction that they can take over 6 years. Their annuity is $8,600, of which about $4,000, almost half, is tax-free income every year. So their effective rate of return is actually much higher than the 8.6%. It's a wonderful vehicle and very, very popular. Donor advised funds. So these donor advised funds are like a checking account, and they're set up at Schwab and Vanguard and Fidelity, and they're all over the country. They're also set up at Jewish federations. You can leave beneficiaries in these donor advised funds. So in addition to making annual gifts from these donor advised funds, you can leave a beneficiary when you're no longer alive. And ATS can be a beneficiary of a donor advised fund. So this is one way to leave a bequest to ATS. It's also an incredible gift to connect the next generation to. IRAs. Right now, the best vehicle to leave to a charity is an IRA, because if you leave your children, your next door neighbor, your employee, a beneficiary of your IRA, they can lose 60 to 65% of that IRA in taxes. Whereas if you leave your IRA to charity, 100 cents on the dollar goes to the charity. It's a direct transfer. During life, you can direct $100,000 as a charitable rollover from your IRA to charity. You're not taxed on the income as it's withdrawn, but you don't get a charitable income tax deduction. It is a wonderful way to gift during life. And at death, you can leave ATS as a beneficiary for a percentage in your IRA. It's not a dollar amount, but it is a percentage. You can't designate in that IRA form, but I work with donors to set up a designation if they so choose, and to figure out what they want that IRA to go to. So we draft a separate, what we call a bequest commitment letter, that just spells out where that IRA is going. We also ask for a copy of the IRA form because it's important for us to know, believe it or not, it's not necessarily in Fidelity or Schwab's best interest to contact us immediately. They will often hold on to that money until we say, hello, we're a beneficiary. So we often ask for a copy so that when the attorney notifies us of someone passing away, we can follow up immediately. So hot off the press, at the end of December, new legislation was passed on the omnibus bill. And this legislation allows for individuals who have an IRA to take out $50,000 from their IRA to make a transfer to a charity to set up a gift annuity. So if you have an IRA and you are 70 and a half or older, you can take $50,000 out of your IRA and use it for the first time to set up a charitable gift annuity. Why doesn't everybody run to do this? Well, because the IRS puts some contingencies on it. Remember I said that one of the beneficial factors of gift annuities is you get a tax deduction and tax-free income. Yes, you do, but only if you fund it with cash or stock. You do not get that benefit if you fund it with an IRA. So you have no income tax when you draw the $50,000 out of the IRA, but you do not get a tax deduction and you don't get tax-free income. All of the income is ordinary income. And you can't set up a deferred annuity. So why would somebody do this? A lot of people have variable income in their IRAs. They can get fixed income with an annuity. They might be earning 3 or 4% in that IRA. If they turn it over to a gift annuity, they could be earning 6 or 7%. Okay, so there are some benefits to it, but it's not for everybody. So in conclusion, plan gifts and bequests are an incredible way to support Technion Centennial. It connects generation to generation. I talked about our millionaires next door, and we don't know how our actions involve others and leave an impact with them. I want to leave you with one final story before we turn it over to our panel, and that is in December, Joan Seidel, who I think most of you know in California and one of our board members, contacted me and said that she has a cousin who lives in Arizona who called her and said he's really interested in setting up some kind of arrangement where he could get income and leave the remainder to Technion. Now, this was not a Technion donor. This was someone who knew that Joan was very close to Technion, and so she said, I know just the person for you to talk to, and I know just the arrangement for you to have, and it's called a gift annuity. Fast forward 30 days later, and her cousin and his wife set up 2 gift annuities at ATS, and now we've begun a relationship with that cousin. 30 days after that, Joan called me again while I was sitting at the airport waiting to come back from a trip from California, and said, my next door neighbor has 2 condominiums, and I think she might consider gifting it to Technion. So I bring these stories to your attention because none of us know who's in our orbit that might be interested in a bequest, a life income plan, what assets people have, and I urge all of you to talk about Technion, raise the awareness, and we're here for you, and we're here to help you. So thank you, and I'm now going to ask Joel and Nancy to come up on the stage. So thank you, Joel and Nancy. I really appreciate your being here. I want the audience to know that I have been working very, very closely with both Joel and Nancy for several years now, and they have both been absolutely wonderful volunteers talking to prospects and donors long before I got here, and I wanted to have them up here so they could talk to you about what they do, how they do it, what's worked, what hasn't worked, to help all of us. So if I could just start asking each of you, what do you do to engage prospects? Joel?
I think there's a couple things. First thing you do is listen. Second, and maybe it's even the first, is share your story and your connection to Technion. I think I love, if I get the expression right, the Israeli expression, acharai, follow me. And I think that's a really important part of engaging with a donor is the fact that you yourself are a volunteer and a donor. And that already creates, I think, a different level of engagement with someone who is a prospective donor, because they know that you're doing this to have you join them, which is, in the end, the other part of what to me is critical to what we're doing and getting someone involved, which is, it's not only about the money, you're giving them an opportunity to join in something that's become meaningful to you and an important part of your life. So one of the things to break away from is this discomfort of feeling you're soliciting money from someone. You're not. You're giving them an opportunity to be a part of something that's been very meaningful, important to you, or you wouldn't be here with us today. And it's from that perspective that the rest can follow. I'll take a break from that, add other comments later.
Thank you. Nancy?
I think, is this on? Yes, okay. It's interesting to me that wearing these badges, so many people have come up and said, oh, what's Genesis Circle? Genesis Circle, first of all, I'm not crazy about the name, no offense to anyone who thought up the name, but it's the legacy group. It's those of us that have signed up to leave something in our will to Technion. And for those of you who have not done that, this is a soft little twist of the arm to consider that. And, you know, there's a wonderful quote that someone who was born in the 1800s said, and it really means a lot to me. It says, what we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others and the world remains and is immortal. And that really has struck a note in my heart, because what we leave for others, really, we don't know whether our children will continue the same beliefs that we have and the same passion that we have for the Technion. We don't know that. And they'll have other things that maybe will strike the chords of their heart. And hopefully it will be the Technion, but we don't know that for sure. So we'd like to make sure that the legacy that we have is left for the Technion. So, you know, we can convey that to other people, hopefully, and twist their arms gently. And, you know, hopefully, you know, we convey that. But the people that we know in our circles, we'd like to bring them in and gently twist those arms. I know that the people I know, I talk about Technion all the time, sometimes too much, I'm sure, but whether it's emails, and if you don't like to solicit, there are those of us that don't mind. I always say, if you open the door a little, my feet are only size 5s. I'll get my foot in somehow, and I don't mind doing some solicitation. So it's okay for me. I'll get in and I'll gently twist their arms a little bit too.
Thank you. Thank you. So how do you approach the topic? When you start, how do you approach the topic from the beginning?
Well, I think I like to say I attribute this to my 4th grade science teacher, that solving any problem has the 4 parts. You've got to establish what is it you're trying to solve. Well, here it's about wanting to see what you need to do to motivate or engage someone to give the gift that's right for them. And then but then the part that people leave out in solving a problem is you gather the facts. By the way, the other 2 are conduct your analysis and draw your conclusions, for those who missed out in 4th grade on the we call it the scientific method. And it's gathering the facts that people miss out on in so many any of these issues. So gather those facts, listen, and ask questions, and find out what is it about them what are their interests in what they want to support. One of the things I love to say about the Technion is I call it a Swiss Army knife for philanthropy. Whatever a donor is motivated about, I feel we've got a tool something to satisfy that goal, whether it's the support for the military security of the State of Israel, the support for medical innovation, economy of Israel. I mean, we can go on and on. Of course, it's what we're all here about. But ask and listen to what those things are. And then if you really are getting deeper into the issues or the questions of what would be the right fit for a gift, then it's more about their family situation, their financial situation, their goals in those ways. Because I think Judy did a wonderful job. I think you may know I'm an attorney, a estate planning attorney by profession. And Judy did a beautiful job of reviewing the tools. But one of the things that I think is a common theme is that you do not need to feel overwhelmed by all these techniques. What you just need is a slight taste that we got this morning of that these are out there. And the other point about this that Nancy alluded to that's very important is that you don't have to be the solicitor and the closer, not at all. but you are part of a team, and the team is with your local professional from the ATS office. I found, and I've been involved for so many years, we've been blessed to have the same professional for many years now, but going back even before that, the professionals we have are well-trained, they're very experienced, and what they just need is that, with respect, that foot in the door that we can provide to make the introduction, and then some more background, and make them a co-conspirator. Share what you know about the person, how you have the relationship, how you met them, and then work with them behind the scenes. What do you think? Let them help you. Be a resource if you want to stay involved to help you do it, or otherwise let them help you make a luncheon meeting, a date to take the program further. So that's some thoughts on that.
I agree with what Joel just said. The thing about Technion, and I've said this for so many years, is there's a hook for everyone. You need to know your prospect, and whatever it is they are interested in, Technion has it. It doesn't matter what it is. It can go from agriculture to cancer research to security of Israel. It makes no difference. And the best thing you said is it's a partnership with the development officer that in your region, because it's teamwork, and that's what it is. And you don't have to know any of those wonderful things that you and Judy know about, because between the development officer and Judy, if it's a wonderful prospect, they have the information. You don't have to know it. You just have to make the contact. And that's what this is all about. First of all, you need to look into your own background, see if you can do one of those opportunities yourself. And a CGA is a wonderful opportunity depending upon your age. But if you know, whether it's you or your parents or someone you know, to do a CGA, it's a fabulous interest rate. Susie, back there, we were talking to someone who's 80 and trying to get him to consider a CGA, and telling him that it would be a wonderful opportunity to leave something to make an impression for his granddaughter, because it would be such a wonderful thing to have her see that. And again, it's such a nice, comfortable way to do it. The interest rate is so fabulous. But it's a wonderful thing for all of us to consider the legacy that we're leaving. Again, I'll repeat the quote: what we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others in the world remains and is immortal.
Thank you. Very well said. So, a lot of people feel uncomfortable talking about legacy. And a lot of individuals have said to me, I'm sharing things with you that even my family is not aware of. How do you navigate in those conversations where you're talking about very private things with people regarding their legacy that they may not have shared with their own families?
It's an interesting question. I think a lot of it, and it's something I'm seeing more with some of my cohorts, is the need to think about their legacy in a broad sense. Everybody, again, back to my earlier comment, is specific and special to their circumstances. But on a positive side of some, because we've seen that we get very generous gifts from people without children, with dysfunctional families, unfortunately, but in a very positive sense, what you also see, and I think it may apply to many people in the room, is people who have a wonderful, functional, successful family, and then there's a serious question that I'm starting to see happen more and more, and that is along the lines of things they would not and should not be discussing with their children. It's a short point. It's because I'm also an estate planner. It's how much money is enough money for your children? And our children aren't that young anymore, so they're pretty established. And it's a sad phenomenon. I digress too badly up on a podium, but in the ultimate sense of what in my professional career you do is money ends up passing generation to generation and growing because generation to generation get worried about how much they'll need for their old age, and they invest it. And cynically, the people that do best are the investment advisors who get a certain percentage of the money under management every year, and it just grows. But the issue is, at that point, what's the message to your children, and what's the right thing to do for society? We've also, I often stress with clients and donors, we're very lucky. I mean, I sincerely believe we arguably are the best time and the best place in history to have been fortunate enough to live. We benefited from that. People generally achieved it with their own hard work, but they achieved it in an environment that made it possible. What do you want to return to society? What do you want to give to the future that provided, from those who provided for us to those who will follow us? And so those are some, I hope they're relatively cohesive, but they are a pattern of thoughts that can apply in differing ways to differing people we end up speaking with.
I agree. It's also a message that you're leaving for your children. You know, if your children are self-sufficient and doing well, it's a message for future generations.
Yes, thank you. Can each of you share your favorite donor story? Where you can, you don't have to, no names,
no,
just your favorite donor story.
I guess
and
I
how
do.
it went, and your favorite donor story.
It's still somewhat a process, but I guess I'll pick one because, and this is the importance of all of us being identified with the ATS and the Technion. You can guess that over the years that it's something that's evolved for me in Chicago, and we have friends, and the importance of people knowing. And so I actually, it was a social friend really who is, I don't know if I should say it, but he was an Israel Bond professional fundraiser. And he reached out to an older gentleman and tried to get him to invest, or ask him to make an investment in Israel bonds. Well, the gentleman had no interest, but he said that he wanted to leave his condo we're among friends, to the Technion and Weitzman. I shouldn't add that part, but it's too late. And he said, I know someone who's involved with the Technion. And we became fast friends. And the gentleman's going to be 100 years old in July, Alavai. We structured the right documentation so that the condominium will pass to the ATS at his passing. We became good friends because Technion's it's part of our lives, at least certainly mine, and I think so many of us. So I developed not only I was able to facilitate a very generous gift. The condominium's in a very good location, but a friendship and a relationship because of what I say about what do we all do here. We have shared values. And I have this shared value with this gentleman, and so that was one of my favorite stories, is facilitating this. It will be ours when he reaches 120.
I think I became friendly with an older woman who has since passed away, and we met through Technion. It turned out that she knew my mother. She was a similar age. And she had left her apartment to Technion. But we became very close friends. We would have dinner every once in a while. And she was kind of a mentor, a mother figure to me, and a friend. And the two of us would go out periodically. I would pick her up, and we would dine together. And she was a Technion friend, colleague, and very much a Technion guide and mentor to me. And it was really a beautiful story. And I was, kind of devastated. I still have her birthday in my calendar, and I think of her often. So it's just a very special place in my heart. When I got started, she was part of my life, and still is.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So, what would you say to the audience are the 2 tips that you would provide in thinking about each of our networks and who might be a prospect for a legacy or a life income gift?
Why don't you go ahead first?
We're all prospects for a legacy gift. I think everyone in this room and everyone who was part of your network that might be a prospect. If they have a nice life and a nice income, or had a nice income, and they're comfortable and they know about Technion through you, I think you should contemplate talking to them. Just in conversation. I feel like I'm a good ambassador for Technion, and I think all of you are as well. So there's a way to work Technion into any conversation. Whatever the topic is, you can turn it around. I think my friends probably are tired of me talking about Technion because whatever the topic is, whether it's Israeli politics, I can turn it into Technion. It doesn't matter. We can talk about cancer. Oh yeah, let me tell you what Technion is doing. It doesn't make a difference. And so flip it around and then talk about, what you can do to make a difference at, the end of your life to make Technion better and to improve their research. So, and if you're uncomfortable doing it, call me. I'll help you, I promise.
Yeah, as I knew I would, I'd echo what Nancy said. And I think also, because I've already said that I think it's important, all of us need to be sure that we have the Technion in our state plans, because that's an entree to say something I've done. And one of the important aspects that Judy stressed is the retirement accounts and the important value of naming the Technion directly in a retirement benefit, because people don't realize. I'll bring up the memory of Leonard Sherman. He hasn't been mentioned much of us in memory, and he used to love to tell. He used to tell prospective donors that they have somewhere the IRS starts building a ship with your name on it, because they know how much. He did a long story of it, but it's that you. They measure your net worth and your life expectancy, and they start it now because they know when you die they're going to build it. You're going to pay for it, and but the value of leaving money from those retirement accounts, they're time bombs financially for people's families, and can provide a great value to Technion and great leverage to the family of what you can do for Technion at really a low cost to the family. And then, unrelated, the different direction is bring people to events. It's a great way of introducing them, and then share with your professional who you brought, what you know about them, and get advice and get some help to strategize again, to bring this person involved, get this person involved, and see what would be the right kind of meeting. But you don't have to take it on yourself to be the person asking for that gift. It's a couple of points.
That's great. Thank you both so much. I appreciate it, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for all the work that you do. We are so very grateful.